Hold on one second. Let me let. Okay. That's better.
All right, well, why don't I call the meeting to order? Denise, you can do the roll call, and as people pop in, they can identify themselves if more show up.
Absolutely. Please let me know the location you are at this evening. Commissioner Dent?
Present and in Ypsilanti.
Thank you. Commissioner Cass?
Present and in Plymouth.
Chair Standby, how are you? Okay. I'm gonna say Houston.
Right.
Okay. Commissioner Dillip is not here. Okay. Commissioner Winkler?
Yes, I'm here and I'm in Ann Arbor.
Okay. Vice Chair Garber?
I'm here in Ann Arbor.
Aisha Ghazi?
Here in Ann Arbor.
Okay. Commissioner Soba?
Present and in the city of Ann Arbor.
Okay. Commissioner Cowan?
I am also present in the city of Ann Arbor.
Councilmember Nelson?
Here in the city of Ann Arbor.
And Councilmember Redina?
We're in Ann Arbor.
Okay. We have a quorum.
Great. All right. Is there, Denise, is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment? Is there anyone?
No, there's no one present now.
Okay. All right. We'll pass that then and go to the agenda. So has everyone looked at the agenda? And if so, can we approve it? Or do you have any thing anyone would like to add? Let me ask this. Is there, at the end, we have Commissioner Communications. Does anyone have anything at this point that they think they might want to add at the end? You don't have to, but if you do know, we can just make a note of it. All right, let's proceed then. Item number 3, minutes. The minutes have been sent out to all of us. Is there anyone who has anything they'd like to amend in the minutes? All right, in that case, can someone make a motion to adopt the minutes or approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, the minutes are approved. All right. Item number 3B. We'll start with City Council. If Elizabeth or Travis have anything to say, to report that might be of interest to this committee, please do so. Anything?
I'm struggling to think what we did at the last meeting. I don't know why I'm running a blank. Travis, can you think of anything?
I can't think of anything super pressing to this committee, and I know that we have an update on facial recognition later on the agenda. So
right, that's coming up in 10 seconds. So if nothing on that, then let's move right ahead to facial recognition. So Travis and Aiden can report on that.
Before we move on to that, and as it relates to Travis and Elizabeth, Last month, you brought to our attention the fact that there were two substantial decisions made by City Council regarding staffing. And you approved a contract for the interim administrator. That was to begin on October 18th. That was a unanimous vote. And that the council was in the process of interviewing a finalist for the city attorney's position. Also, council is investigating a complaint from the HR director, and an independent investigation is underway. So I just wanted to know if there was an update on either of those three.
We have made an offer to a city attorney candidate. We have authorized the mayor to negotiate the terms of a hire, and so we are waiting to hear back on that. There is a December deadline. I don't remember the exact date, but we did choose to move forward with the finalists that we interviewed.
And Milton Tahoney has now sort of assumed everything. Like we had a sort of a funny week where he was transitioning and moving, but he's now taken charge. He is our city administrator for now. And my understanding is that there is a timeline for the investigation, and I don't know the end date, but it was happening as recently as like last week. So I don't know the end date of that.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Vice Chair Garber. Can I ask Commissioner Doss, rather, where's he coming from or our meeting from?
I'm in Ann Arbor. Thank you.
Oh, hi. Okay, good. We're all here, and Dilp, we're on item 3B. We're going on to facial recognition. So, Aiden and or Travis have anything to report?
Yeah, I can give a quick update. We actually just touched base today that we are looking to have some sort of resolution on council's agenda in January, and we're convening soon to talk further about our comments, because when we had last met, we sent all of our comments to the city attorney to draft new language in a possible resolution or ordinance rather. And so that's where we're at with the process. And Travis, if you have any notes, please feel free to share as well.
Yeah, and I would say I think the goal, as we were talking to Councilmember Song today, I think we would all like to have something before council in January, but we are also aware that the bodies that have organized this working group, both this and ICPOC, are interested in seeing a draft, and so hopefully we will have something pulled together quickly enough for folks to review in December. Otherwise, we would likely have that to you in January and then potentially have to adjust. So maybe it would come at a later council meeting in January, but that's kind of our tentative timeline.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone have any questions on that? All right. Let's move on to following up on ongoing HRC work. We'll start with trespass. Leslie is listed, but I'm not sure we even have audio for Leslie.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just want you to know that we're working on it. We're working on a few changes before we send it to the police chief, and then we will set up a meeting. I think that's all.
Okay.
Linda, is that all? Since she's working on the changes?
Yeah, that's all. That's
okay.
Thanks.
All right. Next update is on the anti-Asian hate town hall. Aisha?
Yeah, also similarly, we're working on it. I think that we're going to have to convene a few of us to kind of get some movement and also integrate this with the overall kind of communications approach or strategy of the commission, which is something that we're talking about Rep talked about doing. So kind of integrating the two. So we're working on it.
Okay. Good. Kita, can you pour it out on our complaint?
I can. Denise, are you able to display the complaint? Hello, Denise?
Yes.
Hi, are you able to display the complaint that I emailed you a couple of minutes ago?
Oh, I haven't looked at my emails. I have to go. Hold on.
Okay, thanks. So when I spoke last week, I completely forgot that Tim Wellman, who's a database administrator at the agency where I work, took an interest in what we were trying to do, and he developed a draft template in the database because he wanted to help the Human Rights Commission. So we have it, and we've had it for a few months. And I emailed a template to Denise to see whether she can display it and people can take a look at it. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Right. So in essence, what he did was take the revamped complaint form, and he introduced fields, data fields, at each of these points. Wherever you're taking in an answer, it's a data field, and each data field goes into its own table. Once you finish entering in all of this information, all of it's parsed into tables that are interconnected, and you can run reports on either each field, or you can do a query based on just the text. So word search. And it would allow us to analyze all of the data from the complaints that we received. So we have that. We will need a database, obviously. SQL Server is the standard one. I think that Tim did this template in the one that is with Windows software. I forget the name of it, but that's also fairly easy to use. Both of them are, I think. So we would need that, and I think a discussion about a second page, because while this form would gather in all of the data that we asked on the complaint form, I don't know if you can go down further. I don't know if everyone can see the bottom.
Hold on.
Okay.
Is this good?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So each of these check boxes go to their own table. He was very thorough. And then there's room at the bottom for a narrative account of what happened. And then below that, there are there's another 2 fields where you can make notes or describe something of interest or that drew your attention, that drew their attention. So you see. That was his. It didn't take him long because he's a database administrator. But I'm very grateful for his contribution. Honestly, it cut hours and hours out of what it would have taken one of us, because obviously we're not database administrators. So thank you, Tim Wellman. Do people have questions?
I just have a question, Keita, and maybe it would speak to Denise or even Travis or Elizabeth. Is this form compatible with the city's software programming, since we're technically going to be utilizing the city's software for this form? And before you even get to that, thank you. It looks wonderful. And thanks to the gentleman who was instrumental in creating this. Greatly appreciative of the same, but now the question, would it be software compatible with the city system? And then ensuring that it's kept confidential. So I don't know to who would be able to address that, but that would be my question.
Mhm. And I think the specific way to ask that is, does the city own a license to use SQL Server?
I can inquire with the IT department.
Okay, great.
If this is what you choose to have.
So now in conjunction with this form, I believe there needs to be, at first I thought there only needed to be one other form, but I think there need to be 2 additional forms. What I noticed was that this form asks for complaints based on an incident, but it doesn't allow any kind of complaint based on structural racism. And I wondered, I wanted to ask people what they thought about that.
When you say structural racism, are you referring to systemic?
Yes.
Okay. And then just looking at the form, it appears to be a PDF using Adobe, which is a software program. It's widely used. I would think that we would want to, should we choose to move forward with it, ensure that it has some protection so that it's not easily accessible, or I don't want to say hacked, but that's the only word that comes to mind. But one of my experiences in working with PDFs, the good thing is that usually only the author or the originator can make the changes, so that once it's saved, you have to, like, if you want to make changes, you have to, the author of the document is the only one who typically can make the changes. The other concern is that oftentimes if you save it as a PDF, sometimes it doesn't transfer to other program software, so it disappears. Like if you're sending it somewhere, those are just little minor glitches. I'm sure they can easily be resolved, but just be aware of it.
Yeah, and it's also true that whoever, someone enters this data onto this form, they file a complaint. Then Denise would receive it. And I don't know who would, because it doesn't necessarily have to be Denise, but someone would then need to enter this data into the database. So we need both the database itself, SQL Server, and to know, who would be the person entering the data into the software.
Keita, do you think he'd mind if somebody got a hold of him and we could talk about it once we know how close, whether or not we can handle the SQL server issue?
Oh yes, Tim is he's very, very shy, but he was excited to help. So I think he would really welcome additional involvement.
I'd like to talk to him. It sounds like this has got possibilities, certainly.
He showed me the tables that he created in order to capture the data. He did, quickly. Apparently, this is not a difficult type of database to create, which is exciting. And I guess the software is not overly expensive. But again, we do have to look at whether these forms should be encrypted, to really protect them, because we would then be dealing with the database has all the data and the original PDF form. We have that data, both of them need to be encrypted.
Is there, Denise, can you scroll back up just a little bit to the section where you can check a box? Yeah. Is there any concern, and I only ask this because, you know, I'm dealing with people who are saying they're being discriminated against because they're unvaccinated, right? Where your vaccination status is actually not protected under Title VII. So you can't be discriminated against because of your vaccination status. So when I first read this, I wonder if the word discriminatory in this line here, explain what was done that you believe was discriminatory. I wonder if that is leading or I don't know. I'm not sure what the word is I'm looking for, but are all of these things under in reference to legitimate reasons why a person could be discriminated against? And if they're not, are we presenting the information in a way that would mislead somebody?
Can I add one piece of information?
Yes.
If you go to our website, there's now an online complaint form, both for the non-discrimination ordinance and for the Fair Chance Access to Housing ordinance, where you can fill out the information there. And along with it is a lot of explanation about each ordinance and the things that are covered and the things that aren't. And so there, if I understand it correctly, Kita, after a complaint is submitted, then Denise or one of us would transfer the information onto this. So the person filling out, and hopefully most people will be submitting the complaint online, and we'll see all the explanatory information with it. It won't be a standalone thing.
Yeah.
Right. This isn't the form that people will, that the complainant will fill out. This is our form. Right.
Right.
Okay.
But we can tweak it as we want. This was Tim's mock-up of something that would be useful to us, but we can change it. This is more like the idea of what it would look like. Right, Kita?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he based that on the online form.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and people may come to us and say, I was discriminated against because of my veteran status. And that may be what somebody actually believes, and be, what some, I mean, that happens all the time. So,
Right.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Well, we do get that. And when that happens, when you talk to them, you realize that it's not exactly on their veteran status. It may be on something else, but it doesn't seem to stop people that we have a limited list here. And maybe we'll find out it does, but that, I mean, at some point that may be good. There are things we can't help, like vaccine status, perhaps.
Yeah, and I do like the idea of having maybe a broader list that captures perhaps more issues or more things, because then it may show other issues that we're just not aware of, that are problems.
It may be that on the actual questionnaire it says other, specify? I don't remember.
Right, it does.
Oh, okay.
Pretty sure.
So that's where people can put it in.
Right.
I don't know what we do, but for this gathering data piece, but at least the form says it. That's good.
Vice Chair Garber, Councilwoman Nelson has her hand up.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. To Diana's point, I was hearing her say that, or sort of thinking out loud, I guess, about whether that was leading. And it does seem to me that somebody who's filing this complaint, it's accurate. It would be accurate that they believe that discrimination happened. And so something about the framing of that question, I actually appreciate it, because it's whether or not what they experienced, we ultimately, or the members of this commission that ultimately feel like that it actually happened. It's validating to be able to share the story and have it framed that way, because they obviously feel that they were mistreated. And I actually kind of like the way that's framed, because it sort of is front loading, like this is an opportunity for you to share. And we're framing it that we, this is what you believe, and we accept that this was how you perceived it, or how it felt to you.
Yeah. I don't have the form in front of me, but the actual complaint form is different than this, and it's more open-ended, and doesn't feature, like this says respondent, which is kind of a legal term, but I think there's another framing of it on the form. So I think it's a little more welcoming to the complainant to tell their story. Okay, any other questions about the idea that we would have a database that could be sortable and searchable, where we would store the information, assuming we can overcome whatever technical compatibility issues there might be with the city. But the main point is that we could have a database rather than just a bunch of paper that's in a folder. And so if we want to look back and see if there are trends or themes or whatever, it'll be much easier to identify that with a searchable form than we currently have now. So that's I think the point of this exercise. Any other questions for Kita?
I do. I can't even figure out how to raise my hand on this yet, or show my picture. But I wanted to say something about Kita's question about whether this whether there was anything that was a broader kind of discrimination that people might report, institutional or structural or discrimination. And I guess I think that comes out in the responses, but this is a way we can handle them as single complaints. Even if it's structural, we have to start with an incident, and so that's why we collect this. That incidents are what we can deal with. If we see more than one incident or patterns, then we have to deal with it differently.
Well, I mean, just for example, what if I wanted to argue that the city gives you too little time? It's discriminatory in the amount that you are charged for water if your water is turned off. The turn on is, I don't know how much, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to argue that, what would I do? What would we want that person to do?
That would be actually something that somebody could say. We probably would look into it, and if we found it, we may change the ordinance, or we may. It's not an individual issue.
Right, but I'm saying, do people feel as though someone who had that issue could use this form or use the online intake form to express that.
That's how we came up with the source of income ordinance, and that's how we came out with the fair chance housing ordinance. So at least some people have done it that way.
Okay.
Or sometimes they do it in public comment. There are lots of ways to do it, but it's not exactly a complaint.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to handle it usually differently, unless we have it for one incident or one, I don't know, something that we can cover easily. If it's institutional, it usually takes a different kind of an intervention.
Yeah, I was trying to say is as long as we think we are not discouraging people from thinking in systemic ways,
Okay. Yeah, it's a good question.
Right. Aisha, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, I was going to kind of say something along the same lines as Kita. Like, how advantageous is it for us to put categories on this form that forces people to box their complaint into something on the front end?
This is not the form that they see. This is for us. This is
so this is for us. So this is the back end.
This is not the form. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not the public.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's more helpful.
Yeah.
More helpful to know. So then, Kita, how would someone see if they had a more institutional complaint, for example, about water? What do you mean? How would these categories dissuade them? If it
it's the whole thing looks like one thing happened to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what it was that happened to you. Whereas this explain what was done that you believe was discriminatory, I think captures all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're not going to see in reference to box, right? Okay.
Right, they won't see that.
Okay, that's good.
They won't see that. And I'll have to go back to the form that's online to be sure that it doesn't say something about, the one incident there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kita.
Oh, okay. I've got a second half of the report though.
Oh, go.
Judah and I talked about the fact that each investigator who looks into a case will need a form upon which they can record their findings. Also, it creates what I think we need, which is one uniform process. If you file a complaint, no matter who handles it, it should proceed in a uniform way. And I think that a form that we would complete as we do the investigation would lead us through that process and actually record what we find. So, for instance, we need to identify who we interview. We would need to record the essence of what they say. We would need to record our view of the story that either the principal and or the object and or the witness has to say, right? Because sometimes if there's if the stories aren't uniform, then you know that something's wrong, right? So we know we're going to interview people. We know we're going to review documents. We're going to have conclusions. And I think that those actually are as important to record as the facts, the allegations themselves. I don't know why no one is saying anything, but I'm going to use the silence to say, and further, I think that all of the Ann Arbor City Commissions that conduct investigations should do so following the same process, same basic fundamental process. And I think that we should hire someone, that the city of Ann Arbor should hire someone from one of the big law firms, because they're called to do investigations all the time, to come in and teach us all a best practice for conducting an investigation.
So a couple of comments, Keita. I'm in agreement that we should have the uniformity and consistency for all investigations. That is consistent with what the state and the feds do. I know that from personal experience, since I'm trained by both. There are a set of forms that they use for all investigations. They're witnesses. I see Diana nodding her head because I know she knows and does this for a living. So the only thing that I would suggest, just because we don't have a budget or monies, even if we can get them from the city, but the feds do this on a regular. They offer training. They usually have it somewhere that they designated and anybody can attend. But my suggestion or recommendation is that we contact them if that's something we agree to do and go forward, for a couple of reasons. Because it mirrors exactly what they do at the state and federal level. And they do this, I like to use the expression when I'm generalizing, and because this is what they do and this is all that they do it right. So the expression that I use is they're like KFC. KFC doesn't do anything but chicken, so they do it right. So my position is bring in the experts, because this is what they do for a living, right? And have them train us. The other good thing about that is it's free. It's a service that our tax dollars pay for. Now, we may incur an expense if we're inviting them to come in to do this, but run it up the flagpole and see how it flies. They may be interested in doing it because we are a city who is interested in being not only compliant with laws, but we are taking the next step to ensure that we are. And so while a lot of our ordinance exceeds either state or federal in terms of the bases in which complainants can file under, it is, I believe, beneficial for us and the city to have the feds come in and look at everything that we're doing, especially our commission, since we're charged with investigating alleged complaints of unlawful discriminatory practices, and have them train us. So in essence, have the experts train us so that we become expert as well. And they already have the forms in place, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to adopt them or modify them based on our own usage. Not saying that they're perfect, but like I said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can start from what they have and modify it accordingly. So that would be my response to what you've said.
Yeah, I think it's perfect.
I have a really, really good PowerPoint that I could give you. And some really good forms. I could just share them via email even.
Well, having the forms is great, but I think we should, just as Pam said, invite a federal EEOC investigator or trainer to come in. I think it's a great idea. But I do think that we should talk with all the other commissions that do investigations, though. Because I think that it is reasonable, if you are a citizen of, Ann Arbor, to expect that your complaints are going to be handled, in this same way, because the way that we're doing it is the right way.
Councilmember Medina has his hand up.
Thanks. Just on that front, and I don't want to put her on the spot too much, but if the commission feels that it needs additional training on how to kind of handle some of the complaints and to do it uniformly, I also wonder if that's something that should be coordinated through Attorney Radabaugh and the city attorney's office as well, particularly to the extent that, she has some experience in doing investigations, but also could then provide some more of that leadership in terms of consistency across the city. Because while I think it's helpful to potentially have some additional training, I also want to make sure that we're remembering that we're empowered, essentially. We're doing investigation under Ann Arbor law. And
Right.
to the point that someone else made, that there are differences that might exist between what what our ordinance states and what other laws may, what may be constituted in other laws.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm happy to coordinate anything you guys want. Pam, if you have a specific person you want me to work with at the EEOC, otherwise, you know, I'm happy to offer up what we do. You know, internally, we have the same thing. We have specific forms. We have a whole toolkit that we use to ensure consistency, all the same things you guys are saying. And I will say for the commissioners that do the investigations, I mean, I work with them pretty closely, so I see what they're doing. And at least from my perspective, it is consistent. They do a great job. And I actually regularly talk about what a great job they do because they've been able to resolve some pretty intense issues.
Thank you. But we should get together and talk about this. I think it's certainly worth it considering.
So are we saying that the next step would be to look into this, to meet and talk about what the investigatory process and training would be like?
Well, find out about it and find out if it makes sense.
Yes, no, that's what I mean. And
Yes.
Are we satisfied with the back end form that Tim created?
I'd like to talk to Tim and look this over and get back to people because
Okay.
we haven't really thought about what kind of information was going to be the most useful and how we want to do this. So let's see how we're going to use it.
Okay, and it's
Thank you very much for doing it.
Oh, certainly. I mean, it's a template. It can be modified in any number of ways.
I assumed, yes. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on that? All right, let's move on. Thanks a lot, Keita. Conversion therapy, logistics, Diana.
Okay, so I have made contact with the neutral zone and their assistant director. And we are hopefully going to meet next week to talk about how we can kind of market and work with their riot group to, see how we can work together. The Ann Arbor Public Schools, I did fill out the partnership form, which is kind of the next step in the process. Now, when I did that, to be 100% transparent with all of you, I filled out the form in a more general way than, hey, I want to market conversion therapy education. So the way that it's a Google Doc basically, and it goes to, an email person, a person's email through the Ann Arbor Public Schools. But the partnership, the series of questions that it asks are whether or not your entity wants to be involved with the Ann Arbor Public Schools weekly, in the classroom, outside of the classroom, monthly, quarterly, yearly. So I said monthly. I then, as I went through and answered the questions, it asked about kind of specific ways that we would interact with the students. And it didn't give me anything that really fit with what we were offering. So I ended up picking like career information and then other. So I'm hoping that I actually get the opportunity to actually talk to somebody before they either reject, like completely reject me. And then the second piece of this is that as I got towards the end of this Google Doc, and I'm, trying to write my best begging, paragraphs. And if anyone from the Ann Arbor Public Schools is watching this on television right now, I could really use a plug if you know anybody who is in charge of the partnerships. Then it asks if you want to be like a higher level overall partner. And I checked that box, yes, because as I thought about our role in the community, and then I thought about our role with youth, I thought there really are so many ways that we can and should be interacting with our youth in Ann Arbor. And it isn't just LGBTQ plus youth, although they are very special to me. And so, I thought about trespass, and I thought about, housing, and I thought about all of these things that we talk about every week, and they affect kids all the time. And so I really filled out the form in a very umbrella blanket kind of way, in the hopes that the Ann Arbor Public Schools would take us on as a partner, to allow us to kind of come in, talk to kids, work with them in a way to just, I don't know what else we could do. And I'd be willing to work with them however we could do that. I'm thinking in terms of marketing, but just to get the word out, certainly, LGBTQ plus youth, but I was just thinking of all the other things. So I may have opened Pandora's box is what I'm saying, but I have filled out the form. I have submitted it. I'm waiting. I think the lady's name is Nancy. So I'm waiting for Nancy to get back with me. And so, Judah, that's what I have to report.
Thank you, Diana. Any questions for Diana? Okay. Let's move on to the next item, which is Fair Chance Housing Logistics. Linda Margie. Either one of you want to say something?
So I think this is really, again, about getting out the word that to landlords in particular, and potential tenants, but at this moment, landlords, that the law even exists, and Margie can take it from there. And in the ordinance, it says that the city is supposed to notify all landlords who are registered with the city.
Yep. So I've been working with Derek Delacour's team in the community services area. So they maintain a list of registered landlords. So the plan is to send a copy of the ordinance to all of them. It's geared up, ready to go. And honestly, the last communication I have, which I was sharing with Linda, is that they're just looking for a code to charge it to. So they're waiting to hear from finance or to build that mailing, but it is all ready to go.
Great.
Is it regular mail and email, Margaret, or?
Yeah, I suggested to them that to the extent they have emails, that we should just be sending the link, but regular mail definitely, because that's the ordinance. It could be read either way, so.
Okay, good. All right, anything else on that? Let's move on to the next item, complaints. A meeting on complaints, which Leslie, Linda, myself, and Pam were discussing. Anyone want to speak to that?
I guess I should just say what I said in the letter, that I've scheduled the people who have never taken any complaints, found out what chunk they went, when they wanted to start, when they wanted their all on-call 3-month period to begin, and we'll start moving them in as their time comes, starting in January 1st. That's when the first people wanted to start.
Right. Thanks, Liz.
Now, just to go backwards, that gives us less than 2 months to get our process in place, right? Can we do that? Margaret,
Kita, we've been doing it for a while, so the hope is that, and yes, we can make it better, and yes, your idea is great, and I would love to see that happen. But I think the plan maybe is to buddy up with, so the new people can join with at least somebody who's been doing it.
Well, Margaret was just telling us that we have already a process that she thinks works great. So why don't we learn about it and apply it?
I wrote those procedures with several other people. They're out there. Anybody can edit them. We can work on making them better.
I know, and I'm not trying to say that what we've done is not effective, efficient, or just. All I'm saying is, I think we want to do it in a uniform
way.
Right?
That was the purpose of the procedures. I completely agree. It was I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Right. And so if Margaret is saying we already had, we think if it has developed some really nice procedures, we could simply incorporate those. I guess I'm not grasping the problem with that.
Linda, where are those posted, those procedures?
They're not posted, but they've been sent around to everybody multiple times. I'm happy to send it again.
Okay.
And they're not written in stone. They're a work in progress. We've been working on them as a group, the people who were taking complaints, and that's been multiple people over time. So they've changed. And when Denise came on, they changed again because we didn't have someone in that role before. So yes, please, everybody study them. If they look like they need fixing, let's talk about it.
But Linda, the point I guess I was trying to make is that we want to develop a database intake form so that we'll have to freeze it in time. Like say, okay, whatever process we have in place at the end of November, we'll keep and we'll build the database intake form off of that.
Oh, that's fine.
Right, that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
okay, so it's process procedure. I think apples, oranges. Okay, got it. Okay.
Right, but it doesn't seem like we should delay the process of bringing people in to handle complaints based on whether or not we have a automated database form, right? I mean,
yeah, but look, what I guess I was saying was because Margaret said, we have forms that she has a process that she thinks works great. I don't think there will be a time problem. At the end of November, I will give whatever we have that we agree upon at that next meeting to Tim and ask him to develop a database intake back in form.
Are you guys still doing the meetings with the 4 investigators? You remember how we had those? I've attended those. It might be good for us to, have one of those. We haven't had one in a couple of years.
good. Okay, well,
would Denise not be kind of responsible for managing the database more so than any of us? So as opposed to the investigators, what you've indicated, Keita, that Tim has developed, I think that speaks more to Denise managing that and all of the rest of us having access to it and then developing or obtaining specific information once it's in place.
Well, we are the folks that enter the data that we gather from interviews and document reviews. So we would enter the data into the form.
Right, but the initial intake would be Denise, and that we then, the investigators, take and pursue.
Right.
So
And then
it's an ongoing thing, because as we're interviewing or collecting data or documents, we would then enter that data as well, we, the investigator.
Right, we would enter it onto a form.
Okay.
But someone else would have to enter that data into the database, because we won't all have access to the database.
Right, and I'm saying I believe that person is Denise, correct? Okay.
Yes, and Margie, to your question, yeah, it's a good idea. We should have a meeting. So we'll set something up in the next week. How about that?
Well, it's either that or after the Thanksgiving holiday, which is 2 weeks. Because that's, just 2 weeks from today.
Okay, how about early December then? All right, we'll do that, early December. Good, okay. All right, moving on to item 4, old business. Number 1 is contractor compliance report, Pam and or Leslie. Anything on that?
So each of us has received in the documents for tonight's meeting a copy of the contractor's report that we submit based on data received from purchasing. And it hadn't been done for the past 2 years, so you see 8 quarters of data. And then the thing that I wanted to bring to our attention are a couple of things. We received the data from Colin Spencer, and then the numbers that you see under each quarter is what I pull from that data that we get from Colin, and you see it condensed. This is something we've done annually since we've had approval from the discrimination ordinance. What I want you to kind of look at, not that it's problematic, is that the city does a robust business with a lot of contractors, and the city and Arborites, with one exception, benefit to approximately 10% on average. So you can see each quarter the amount of monies, it's in the millions, that the city expends in doing business with contractors. And of that total spend, with some exceptions, only about 10% of those contractors are from Ann Arbor. There's a couple of exceptions, but on average, 10%. Above that whole listing of the summary of contractors, we've determined, Leslie and I, because we pretty much managed this from inception, to ensure the city is compliant, the contractors who do business are compliant with the non-discrimination ordinance. We want to verify that. So a couple years back, or I should say pre-pandemic, Leslie and I took it upon ourselves to just look at a couple of local contractors. Usually there's between 8 and 12 Ann Arbor contractors. So I took 2 and Leslie took 2 and just said, we're going to go look and see if they have the NDO posted. None of them did. None of them. So I think it's interesting that in the verbiage that is written in the report that goes before City Council, it says that everybody's compliant and nobody's in violation of the NDO. And the language is very specific when it says, well, there weren't any reports. There weren't any reports of violations of the NDO. Well, I find that a little concerning, since 4 of them we know didn't even have the posters displayed. So that in itself is a violation of the NDO. So we've expanded our goals for the upcoming year to at least confirm that the 8 or 10, however many Ann Arbor contractors at least, have the NDO displayed. Also, there's a requirement in the NDO that contractors who are subject to the federal affirmative action requirements, also found in our NDO, are compliant. And then finally, one of the requirements is that those same contractors are mandated to at least engage in good faith efforts to employ local persons in accordance with our NDO. And a quick way that they can do that is to simply list their openings with the unemployment office. And since I'm unemployed, I know that in order to get unemployment, which mine, by the way, I'm fighting with, you have to document that you are looking in order to get unemployment. So the way that many of these, if not all of these contractors can meet that requirement of good faith efforts employing local persons is to simply post their openings with the unemployment office. So going forward, Leslie and I have tasked ourselves to at least confirm that at least the Ann Arbor contractors, one, have the poster displayed and ask for documentation that they made good faith efforts to employ persons locally. And this is strictly to ensure compliance with the NDO.
And compliance with the contract that these contractors sign, which requires them both to post the poster, make the non-discrimination ordinance available to their people who work in Ann Arbor, and to hire people from Ann Arbor when possible, when they're hiring.
Any questions or other comments?
I had just one comment. I looked at the poster. It looks like it needs a little bit of updating. So if there are new contracts going out, maybe a new version of that poster could be attached. Just little things like ethnicities not listed, and hopefully the 180 days will get kicked out at some point. And then the way that the complaint submission information is described that's changed too, since we have the online complaint form now.
Great. Let's do it. This is a good time because we also have some new ordinances that might affect the contractors.
Yeah, the council just passed, I don't know if it's an ordinance or at any rate, it does affect this aspect of what we, the commission, does, specifically the purchasing agent director now has approval by council to enter into contracts up to $75,000 without council approval. And they don't have to accept the lowest bid. They can accept the best value bid, which may result in a higher cost. But that's action that council just took in earlier this month, I believe, certainly within the last month. And then there's some other things that I've discussed with Leslie that we just want a better handle on understanding. Some of our conversations with Colin, who provides us this information, is I have the documentation to see the data of the contractors. What you don't have the privilege of seeing is that this information is condensed, but a lot of the contractors are the exact same contractors over and over again. So one of the questions that we asked was, where are you technically recruiting? Where are you publishing this information? Where are you eliciting persons to bid? The other question that I've asked in times past, I'm still going to pursue it, is of those total, how many are minorities? Are there any women business minority contractors who were doing business with the city? So that speaks to where are you recruiting, or where are you publishing the information to even bid on the contracts? Our city is extremely robust and rich. You can see that by the total spend, and this is quarterly. So I think the least amount that we spent in any one quarter was just over 10 million. That's the least. Well, so I want to know how we're doing what we're doing and getting the numbers that we're getting. I'm a little concerned that I see the same people doing the same thing.
So Pam, were you able to determine how many or what percentage of the contractors were minority or women?
No.
They don't gather that.
They don't, yeah, they told me that they don't even track that information, and I asked why. Because that only enhances the city's image. They can use that as a PR tool that says, 10% of our contractors are minorities or whatever percentage, right? But I was told that they don't even ask it. I asked also to get that information just because I have a little bit of knowledge about it. Every employer is mandated to complete annually an EEO-1. And that form breaks down how many people are in 9 different categories from entry level to executive level. And it tells you gender, it tells you race. So if we just ask the contractors, show us your EEO-1, we can get that data, right? I asked that, and not just recently either. So we have a little bit of work to do, Leslie and I, and anybody else who wants to join in, we'll welcome your participation. But just know that we take this piece of the NDO, not that we don't take all of it, seriously. So this is kind of like my baby, and I want to own it, and I'll take any help or assistance anyone's willing to give. But this is what we're going to be doing going forward. Just FYI.
The pushback is that you don't want to make it too difficult to contract with Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor claims that it's difficult to get contractors to work with us. And so they're a little bit concerned about our intervening.
We're asking these questions.
Yeah.
But it is in the NDO, so we're perfectly within our rights to do that. And they should be zealous in doing it as well. I mean, they have a packet that we learned that is sent to all applicants. And it is true what Leslie said, that they don't get people to complete the packets because of the stringent requirements. But I don't know where they're looking. So that would be my first question. And, so, and maybe we can assist them with that. We're all volunteers, and we're happy to make recommendations and suggestions. So this is just one other area in which I think we can be helpful.
But what we're asking for today is for you to approve this report of the past behavior of contractors from 2019 to 2020.
Okay.
I move that we adopt the report as written.
Yes.
Okay. Sure. Second. We got a second from Dilip. Okay. All in favor, raise their hand. Opposed? Okay. We have adopted as written. Thank you. All right. Religious head coverings. Linda or Aisha?
Well, hopefully you all saw what Leslie sent. Our little working group met, and we do recommend, well, just a little background, when the Crown language was being considered for being added to the non-discrimination ordinance, some people in the community wrote in to Travis, maybe to other people, asking, well, why not protect religious head coverings as well against discrimination? So our little working group looked into that. While religion is covered under the ordinance, it's not defined. Similarly, same as with race and the Crown language. Unlike with the Crown language, there is protection in federal law against discrimination on the basis of religious head coverings in housing and in employment. But as far as we know, not so much in public accommodations. So we figured, well, let's add it. And so the language that we're suggesting, I guess I'll just read it. This would be the definition of religion. Includes, but is not limited to, hairstyles and the use of head coverings associated with an individual's religious beliefs, observance, or practice, unless they cannot reasonably be accommodated because of bona fide health, safety, or security concerns. So that's what's on the table. Questions? Or Aisha, you have anything to add, or Judah?
No, that captures my understanding.
Yep, same.
Do we have a motion to adopt that proposed language?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
Aye.
All right, we have adopted that proposed language, and if we could come up with a resolution language, maybe we could move this to City
Do we
Council.
need a resolution language, or could we have a motion that says we support City Council adding this to the ordinance? I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Margie?
You don't need a resolution.
Great. In that case, we would like to forward this to City Council for their consideration.
Would it be worth it to put in the rationale in some way so that City Council understands why we decided to do this?
Yeah, I can include it in the memo. I can include it in the,
Oh, okay.
I can include it in the memo. I usually summarize what you guys said anyway in the memo when it's entered into Legistar.
Okay.
Great.
Great. And you've got that whole big long rationale thing, right? Margie?
I do.
Good.
So Councilmember Radina and
Not
Council.
that long.
No, I mean, it's good. I don't mean that in a negative way. It fleshes it out. Okay.
It does.
Because the resolution is only like one liner, which is nice. Okay, good. All right. Does anyone have any new business? I don't have anything on the agenda, but if anyone has anything, we will. Okay. And early on, I asked if there were going to be any commissioner communications, and nobody said anything, but you get another chance if you have something you want to communicate. Hearing nothing, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, it looks like Keita moved. A second there. Aiden, all right. All in favor of adjourning, raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. We'll see you all in a month.
Um,